Today's Country Froggy 92.9. This is Amber and Tanner in the morning.
And right now on the phone, we are with KSRO's very own Mike DeWald. We want to hear about your experiences with the Santa Rosa protest. We know that you were out there as press, as an observer. So we want to see what was going on this weekend.
Yeah, it was a weekend like no other here in Sonoma County. Mostly peaceful protests during the day. As things sort of ramped up into the night, both nights, we saw it get a little more intense between protesters and police. Once it got late into the night, we saw tear gas a couple nights get used to disperse the crowds, but it's a really different scene for Santa Rosa here in these past 2 days.
There were protests on Saturday night and last night as well. From your observation, do you think these protests are getting more intense?
They're different. I would say yesterday was a little smaller, but it had a very similar passion to it. If you went down to Courthouse Square early in the day, it was a lot more relaxed, a lot calmer environment. Still a lot of energy from the people there. A lot of oyster and vigor from the protesters. Last night went longer into the night. There was a long, kind of dramatic standoff at Morgan Street by Santa Rosa Plaza. Lasted well past midnight. Protesters kind of made their way back to Mendocino Avenue. I don't know if it's more intense, but even though the crowd may have been as big as Saturday, no shortage of kind of intense moments.
So most of the protests were taking place in downtown Santa Rosa. And would you say people were protesting police brutality, what happened with George Floyd? Like, what do you think was the center around the protest specifically here in Santa Rosa?
I think that's what set Santa Rosa's apart a little bit from a lot of what you saw around the rest of the country. I think a lot of the focus here was on the message. There were people protesting George Floyd. There were people protesting police brutality. It was definitely a focus on the message. And you have to remember what this area went through something like this in 2013 with Andy Lopez. So a lot of people here have that memory to go on and have that context with which kind of fuels the message that they're giving in their protests. So I think that's a lot of what you're seeing here in Sonoma County.
We are on the phone right now with Mike DeWald from KSRO. Mike, do you think the protests are going to go into tonight as well?
It's hard to say. I would imagine that we'll see some aspect of protest tonight. A lot of this is built through social media, but in a lot of different ways than it was before. A lot of these younger people aren't necessarily tweeting about it, so right. it's quite where things are happening next.
Mike, as an observer, how do you think first responders here in Sonoma County were handling the situation? I mean, do you think they were doing a good job? What do you think about that?
It's a difficult situation to sort of manage a demonstration like this. Santa Rosa police really were hands off. I would say Saturday, for much of the day, you really didn't see any police presence. I'm sure that doesn't mean that they weren't keeping an eye on it, but in terms of sort of a visual presence, they really kept their distance, allowed the protest to develop and evolve sort of as it was going to. You saw it a little more on Sunday. Again, this is more during the day. You'd see a little bit of patrol and things like that. Once it gets into the night, it changes a little bit. And last night, the focus was really on, keeping these protesters off the highway. At one point, they tried to get back onto 101 and block traffic there. And that was really the main effort from police last night. What we haven't seen any incidents between protesters and police. Obviously, there's been these moments where they've sort of used different tactics to disperse crowds, whether that be tear gas. I believe there were some chalk bullets at one point. But in the grand scheme of it, while these are very tense and dramatic moments, you're not really seeing clashes between the groups. So I would say they're really doing what they can, as much as they can, to allow these to happen, while also, trying to maintain safety.
Mike, how have you seen local businesses affected during this time?
There has been an impact to local business. I don't think it's been anything that, I mean, it's not the scenes that you're seeing from other cities around the country. There was quite a bit of graffiti vandalism, messages spray painted on walls. There was a lot of that. In terms of actual damage to businesses, the Santa Rosa Plaza probably saw the brunt of that last night. Macy's, Forever 21, all seeing windows broken. One moment late in the night, I believe someone broke a window at the chic store at the plaza. Someone actually tried to get in and steal some clothes.
Wow.
Protesters stopped them, got the items from them, and took them back into the store.
Wow.
But the actual damage to businesses has been pretty low.
Well, Mike, thank you so much for your time this morning. We really appreciate it. And if anyone wanted more information about everything that's going on with the protests, where could they get more information?
Check their local media. Check social media. So much of this plays out on social media. If you're watching Twitter, places like that. You can also check out KSRO.com. There's lots of coverage, photos, videos of everything that's going on in Santa Rosa.
Mike DeWald, ladies and gentlemen from KSRO, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
This is Today's Country, Froggy 92.9.